Continuing on with Apuntes, capítulo 8. Otro. The word otro or otra means other or another in English. We decide which one we're going to use in English based on the content of our statements. It works just like an adjective in that it agrees in gender and number with the noun it describes, so the ending must correspond to the noun we're describing, such as the following examples. Remember to push pause, write down your translation, and then check your work. Otro cuchillo. Notice that otro ends in an O because cuchillo is masculine and singular. It should translate to say, another knife. Otros platos. Notice they are plural and the gender is masculine. Should translate to other plates. Remember, sometimes these notes go into the next vocabulary list, so always have your vocab lists in your book of vocabulary, if you haven't done that list yet, open so that you're able to follow along as well and fill in any words that you have yet to learn formally. Then we have otra servilleta. It's feminine and singular, so otra has to end in the A. Should translate to another napkin. Otras cucharas, feminine plural, should translate to other spoons. So now you have two sentences to translate to English. The first one, tengo otras cucharas que puedes usar para poner la mesa, should translate to I have other spoons that you can use to set the table. Hay otros tenedores para la ensalada, should translate to there are other forks for the salad. Moving on to the present progressive. This is another verb tense. This one, you will come across it in Spanish too when you start next year. But it isn't formally introduced in your Spanish 1 textbook until future chapters, which we don't get into this school year. So I am bringing it to you now so that you are in complete understanding of what they all mean when you see them in writing and reading. You can also use them, as you will hear them used quite a bit outside in public in Spanish. So the present progressive, also called el gerundio or el progresivo in Español, is used to talk about what's happening right now, what is progressing, which is where it gets its name. So you would use the following formula. The verb estar. There are other verbs that can also start, but estar is the one that you know how to use and conjugate. So that is the one that is typically used to introduce this verb tense. Estar plus what we call the present participle of the verb of action that you want to say is progressing. Notice in the brackets I have ando or yendo. So that is dependent on the ending of the infinitive verb. Again, it's the ing equivalent in English, like the running. For example, she is running or ella está corriendo. For AR verbs, we add ando to the stem. So for example, we have estoy bailando. Bailando, since we know it ends in ando, came from an AR ending verb, bailar. So remembering our vocabulary from back in chapters 3 and 4, what this should translate to say is I'm dancing. Remember, estoy is the verb to be, which in English is I am, or to be as well, estar. So estoy bailando translates literally into English, I am dancing. On to página 4. The next sample. No están cantando. This translates to They are not singing. Remembering that cantar means to sing. Están is the ellos form. It can also be ustedes. That would be you all don't sing, or aren't singing, I should say. Remember, when the no comes before the conjugated verb, it's negating the sentence. So that's why they aren't singing. For ER and IR verbs, you add yendo to the stem. So it should, for example, you would use in the question, ¿Qué están comiendo ustedes? It should translate to say or to ask, what are you guys eating? Enrique está escribiendo las invitaciones. Comes from the verb escribir, because we know it's an IR verb or an ER verb, in this case an IR verb, from that yendo ending. This should translate to say, Enrique is writing the invitations. If the stem ends in a vowel, we do have a spelling change from yendo with an I to yendo with a Y. And these are verbs where when you hit the last two letters, the ER or IR, you will need to change the I to a Y, because the last letter before that ER and IR is a vowel. That's what that means if the stem ends in a vowel. So for example, we have the verb leer. If you look at the sample question, it asks, ¿Estás leyendo el periódico? So the verb leer, the stem is the LE, the first two letters, and the ending is the ER. So in the stem, it ends in an E, LE. So that's our indicator that we need to change the I to a Y when conjugating in the progressive tense. So the question asks, are you reading the newspaper?